This episode of Lovelorn is sponsored by SB Fabrication and Parts. I want to get the rear roller aligned, basically in reference to the sole plate with the bottom blade on it. So to do that, what I've got is a 9mm strip of MDF screwed into a straight substrate. You don't even need the substrate if you're working on a flat surface anyway. But I'm all set up for it, so that's what I've got. Just put a couple of screws in there that are countersunk so they're not in the way. And the idea is to get the machine, the sole plate specifically, resting on that reference surface. So I'm just going to slide that around a little bit. And what I've done is I've tipped the machine back just to double check the countersunk screws on the sole plate that hold the bottom blade in place. Now they're not completely flush with the surface of the blade, so what I'm going to do, rather than sort of parking the machine directly over this plate, is I'm going to park it so that the those screw heads are offset and hanging off the back end. From there I've loosened off my front cradle bolts, and then I'm going to just drop the machine down height wise in terms of the front roller until the front roller is floating in space. Got a little ways to go yet, and that's now floating freely. Now if you remember when we put that rear roller together, we put the little bearing housing on this side of the machine, the side opposite the chains, and there were the two slotted holes. There was the one fixed hole and the two sort of kidney shaped holes in that bearing housing. So what we can do is loosen off these bolts and adjust the position of the body of the mower in relation to that rear roller. So firstly, I'm just going to slide that forward a touch, just checking to see how much clearance I've got for those screw heads on the underside of that blade. And I'm also looking to see how that bottom blade is currently relating to that little MDF strip. And it's not too bad at the moment. It looks like we're a little bit high on this side. It's definitely contacting on this side. So we're sitting, rather than sitting straight on, we're sitting just a little bit raised on this end. So I'll get around the back, we'll loosen off those screws, and we'll adjust that up or down, and sort of pivoting on that front screw until we're sort of where we need to be in space. I've loosened these bolts now, just given a little nudge to line up, and I've pulled the machine forward up completely onto this plate because the screws, the screw heads on those on that bottom blade don't seem to be interfering with anything. It's a little bit hard to see, but the bottom blade is sitting under there, and I can see that it's touching. It is angled a little bit, but I can see that it's touching evenly across the front of the blade now. So we've got full contact of the bottom blade right across the front on both sides, which is what we want. So get back in there and do these up nice and tight now. And do the bottoms. And then lucky last, the top one. And we'll do a final check. That looks good. Pull it forward a touch, and I'm happy with that. Drop our front roller back down, lock everything up, make sure we're down tightly on that side, and the rear roller is now level. For this jig, I've just got a flat piece of melamine, basically. It's basically a particle board with a substrate on top, so it's relatively flat. It's not perfect. It will still bow and bend a little bit depending on what it's sitting on, but if you can put it on a flat surface, you should get a fairly good result. Bear in mind, concrete floors and that sort of thing are not always as flat as you might expect them to be. But for our purposes, it will do. So what I've got in addition to that is, this is a 9mm piece of MDF. It doesn't need to be 9mm, it just needs to be big enough so that the front end of the mower is sitting off the reference surface. And basically to do that, 9mm is pretty good for the sole plate to sit on here. So I've pre-drilled and countersunk 4 holes in this piece. It's about as wide as the sole plate of the mower. I've marked on here 17 inches. And I'm just going to screw this in to the substrate using my driver. And there's one. Now, the positioning of this strip on this board is not critical. I just wanted to leave enough room for the rear roller to sit somewhere back here, and the rest of it, as I said, is suspended in space, so this bit doesn't even need to be here. You'll note I've driven these screws in below the surface of the MDF because we want the bottom blade of the mower to sit on this piece without any issues disrupting the position of that bottom blade. So we don't want it to be raised up in one section because of a bolt head. The same thing goes for the screws on the underside of that bottom blade that attach the bottom blade to the sole plate. So you need to be mindful of that when you're positioning the mower on this strip.